Yo, what is up, GBA type people? It's Randy HLD again, and welcome to Week 6 preview of GBA Season 10. We are kicking off the second half of the season, and joining with me today, we got the one and only gym leader, Gio. What's going on, man?
Good to be here, Randy. Looking forward to Week 6. Lots of pretty important matchups that could really flip the league standings in a lot of different ways. Plenty to look out for. So here's a first look at what's going on around the league this week. This week, Borussia Donphan heads to Copenhagen to take on the Sawsbucks. Both teams took big wins last week, so this is going to be a good one to watch. We got Play More Esports visiting San Diego Snugglers this week, while the Calgary Flamethrowers head down to Atlanta to face the Victinis. Very critical matchup in the league standings this week. The 3-2 Chicago Dragapults going head-to-head with the 3-2 New York Empoleon. Both teams with the same winning record looking to pull ahead for this playoff race. The dominant Bullet Punch Club up against the solid Wolverhampton Weaviles, and your Edmonton Coilers flying out to visit the San Francisco Arcaniners.
All right, the first game we're going to be previewing, we have the white-hot Play More Esports traveling to play the San Diego Snugglers. And this game features some really big threats. We have Palafin going up against Roaring Moon, two of like the best mons in draft, just overall best mons introduced in this generation. But not to be forgotten, Annihilate is still one of the focal points of the Snugglers, and I imagine it will try to be the focal point once again. It has a pretty good defensive typing into this matchup. Terra Fairy is able to sort of help it neutralize itself, help keep itself safe from the Terra flying Roaring Moon that Ben does have access to now. I think Kilowattrel will show up in this game simply because its dual stab is very strong on this matchup. I think San Diego also will have to bring, Arcanine for Intimidate. I think Klefki just defensively is good for Roaring Moon, of Rotom Wash. A lot of low tier stuff can definitely shine in this matchup, and that's something I look forward to. I think Cyclizar will be huge in regards to its speed tier and just regenerator capabilities potentially. I'm not sure if Ben will go Sun again. I actually think that like a Rain Dance team for San Diego side could be pretty cool with the likes of like Hurricane Jugulus. Of course, Palafin and Rain, there's nothing to explain there. Even like Thunder from Rotom Wash. I do think that some sort of weather action could go on here to try and stop Sunny Day from going rampant again. A little bit of a reach, but I do think that's definitely something that they should watch out for, especially when Ben's flying resists aren't all that great, and they happen to be really weak to water as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So it's gonna be a big game. I think San Diego, they're in the hole at 1-4, but if they're gonna have to beat some really good teams. So if they're gonna do it, they're gonna have to bring something extra spicy, and I think that Rain could be an answer for them.
Borussia Donphan, Copenhagen Sawsbucks. Really excited for this one, guys. Both teams claimed a victory last week that broke their losing streaks. Lars had a 3 in a row. Frosted went 4 in a row. These are good battlers, guys. It really goes to show you the talent in this league when we see losing streaks on battlers like this. But only one will be able to turn their losing streak into a 2-game winning streak this week. Let's break down this matchup. I'm going to be looking out for, well, first off, the dual typings. There are so many interesting interactions with these two teams, especially on Frosted's side. She's got 8 quad weaknesses on her team. Coverage is going to be king. You think one type's a check, but the thing that it checks has got the coverage, so you gotta question that. So whose checks are really checks? Case in point, and this is a mon to watch out for in this matchup, Salamence. This is a dragon flying type, guys. A rock fairy should be his worst nightmare, right? Wrong. Mence learns Iron Head, and he outspeeds. So he doesn't even need to predict a Diancie switch in from Frosted. He just needs the coverage. And then what about that Steel Electric? Surely that'll shut down a dragon flying. Wrong again. Mence has EQ, and again, outspeeds a Magnezone. So I'm really looking at Mence this week. And honestly, after one Dragon Dance, Salamence with either stab, honestly, either stab, plus EQ and Iron Head coverage, that kind of looks unstoppable to me. The only mon on the Sawsbucks that can handle a +1 dual wing beat or a +1 Dragon Claw, that's Avalugg, Diancie, and Magnezone. And none of them survive the combo of EQ and Iron Head. So Mence is going to be a big threat this matchup. I'm going to be really looking out for that. Mon number 2 to look out for, again because of those dual typings, Frosted's Iron Bundle. And I know saying an S tier is a threat is, real original. But honestly, it's scary for Lars. His best water type answers do not like ice coverage, and Iron Bundle is the fastest mon in this matchup. The only water resist Lars has is Mence, Bramblegast, and Volcanion. The first two drop to Freeze Dry, which is neutral on Volcanion. But Volcanion's got a fear that Iron Bundle will Terra to Electric typing. Bolt Beam coverage, very strong against Lars' water answer, so it's a huge threat here. Honestly, I kind of like specs on Iron Bundle this week. 2-hit KOs a Cresselia and after a Terra Water, and really nothing else can outspeed without setting up on it or getting a Scarf. So with some decent scouting, Iron Bundle can pretty much win this thing for Frosted if it's played right. Just gotta do some good scouting, and I really do see that as a big threat. What to watch number 3 here. I like Frosted's Dragon Steel Core in this one. And not necessarily because of the dragon, or the steel, or the fairy, to be honest. But again, it's because of those dual types that's going to come into play big here. Lars' team, extremely rock weak. 6 of his 11 mons are weak to rock. He's got 2 resists, Iron Treads and Pawmon. Now, Iron Treads is coming, no question. And if Diancie can bait in Iron Treads, which it does, dual stabs are resisted, we've got a potential for a trap and kill here with her Steel Core partner, Magnezone. One hard read, that's all it'll take. Switch Magnezone in on an expected Iron Tread switch. That's all it takes, and the Diancie Magnezone combo can shut down Lars' S tier threat. I really like Zone this week. I like him with an Air Balloon. I think that'll help to handle Iron Treads if Frost is not able to make that hard read and hard switch. And I do like how it answers Mence's EQ coverage as well. Frosted did get a new toy this week in her recent trade for Breloom, and she might want to show off that new mod, but I don't think it comes this week, so I don't really think Lars needs to prep much for that. It's threatened by Mence, it's threatened by Cress. Volcanion can Terra Grass, it's useless against Tornadus Eye. Its dual typing really does not shine this week, and I told you it's a dual type kind of matchup, guys. Breloom can't switch in on any of the mons a grass or fighting type is supposed to check. Trying to beat a dark type? Too bad. Lars' dark type is Weavile. You can't risk the ice type attack. Trying to beat a water type? Volcanion's part fire and Terra Grass. At best, it's a Cloth switch in, and it can threaten Iron Treads, but again, it can't really switch in on it since Iron Head would just 2-hit KO and Iron Treads outspeeds Breloom anyway. So I just don't like it in this matchup, which is destined to be the battle of the dual stabs. Keep an eye out for Salamence, keep an eye out for Iron Bundle, keep them quiet. I think we got ourselves a really good match.
Next matchup, we have the Chicago Dragapults, Q's Dragapults, going up against New York Empoleon's Goldoa's Empoleon. Both teams coming off a solid victory. Both teams at 3-2 looking to get up to 4-2. 4-2 looks a lot better than 3-3. So without further ado, let's jump into this matchup here. We feature Iron Hands versus Hariyama. This is going to be pretty interesting. I think Iron Hands is going to show up. I could see it being some sort of like Shookaberry lure set for Garchomp. I think Ceruledge is going to be very, very pivotal in this matchup, especially with the Terra Fairy option or even just Terra Fire. I think Zangoose and Forges will show up simply because when you're going up against a Dragapult, you probably need to carry Ghost Immunity and the Dragon Immunity for that reason. Again, same thing with last matchup. I think low tier threats will be a possibility here. I think Rotom Frost has some use here, especially for like something like Zapdos. I think Dragapult, as always, it's always something to keep an eye out for, as it has potential to do stuff either as a special set or physical set. I would imagine it's probably going to be special this week simply because of the Fortress, as well as, avoiding having to deal with like a bulk up Ceruledge. I think that Garchomp is, it's pretty decent. It wouldn't surprise me if it didn't show up here. But I think that just having a ground type for the Rotom Frost is probably going to be useful for him there. And again, Ceruledge has been doing a lot of work for Goldoa this season, so I would imagine he's probably going to try and do some like a bulk up Terra Fairy set to potentially clean up late game, and it's pretty solid. You can pack a clear amulet for the Tauros or whatever you want to do, leftovers, whatever it is you want to do. I think he has a lot of options at disposal. I do think, though, that it'll come down to, for Q, it kind of just depends on how he plays the Dragapult and the Moth. And for Goldoa is going to be obviously how he plays the Ceruledge. And everything in between will be trying to prevent those mons from winning. So it should be interesting to see.
Calgary Flamethrowers taking on Atlanta Victinis. What I watch on this one, I call it the check counter check. These guys have a real merry-go-round of threats. I think pivoting is going to be pretty key here, especially for Calgary. There's a lot of powerhouses in this matchup. Excalibur, Urshifu, Ursaluna, Quaquaval, Tornadus, Therian, all terrifying mons. You give them a free turn to set up and they can really turn it on in this kind of matchup against each other here. And yet, even though there aren't really any walls to answer those on either team, they're all very revenge prone. And so there's going to be a lot of hard choice about who takes the hit. Do I pivot this one? Do I hard switch? If you choose right, you can keep those threats quiet. Choose wrong, and those threats are going to claim lives, and it's just going to turn into this game of repeatedly revenge killing each other. So what do I mean by this? So take Excalibur here. With any amount of offensive setup, Swords Dance, DD, Choice Band, a little bit of chip damage, anything like that, Excalibur can basically knock out anyone on JayVee's roster. But he has to choose carefully. Bait in an Urshifu on a resisted ice type, and now all of a sudden the tables are turned. What's Urshifu packing? Is it Scarfed? Will it handle a DD set? It's going to outspeed. Is it Sword Dance? Punch Glove? Banded? Does it have Thunder Punch for Slow King? What's your switch into Urshifu? And now you got to find your check again. Choose right, keep it quiet. Choose wrong. Now it's Urshifu who's or claiming a kill. And then what? Revenge City with his Hisuian Electrode. But if he pivots, what comes in? Another threat? Maybe Ursaluna, maybe Quaquaval. These guys can play around these threats. But there are no counters on the table here, guys. None. Every one of these checks needs to fear something from the mon they're supposed to be checking. You gotta scout, you gotta pivot, and you gotta find out. Atlanta's got the speed advantage in this matchup, I think. I think this is probably another thing to look out for, how they kind of play that advantage. Sure, technically, Calgary's got the Hisuian Electrode, which is the fastest mon on the field, and Salazzle's the third fastest, so you'd think I got this backwards, but I don't like Salazzle in this matchup. It's too easily walled by Skeledirge, so I don't think it's coming. So really, he's only got Electrode. And then all of his most terrifying threats, all slow unless they're boosted or have a Scarf. Excalibur, Quaquaval, Ursaluna, all slow. Meanwhile, Atlanta's got Tornadus, Zarude, Sandy Shocks, Urshifu, all of those guys outspeeding the other threats. So I really see this speed advantage for the Victinis this week. All threats in their own right. Again, it's going to make pivoting super crucial for Calgary. And it's going to turn this check game into probably the deciding factor of this match. Long story short, not a lot of counters here. At least not on the mons I see coming. Pivoting is going to be king. It's checks only. These guys going to need multiple layers of checks and answers for all of those threats that are going to be coming and all of the multiple sets they could be running. So I say keep an eye on Excalibur, Urshifu, Ursaluna, Quaquaval, and Tornadus T. Any of those guys could really take the match and go running with it if the scouting game or prediction game is strong and the checks aren't there. The undefeated BPC in the Wolverhampton Weaviles this week, guys. I'm going to watch this one closely. And my question is this. What did the Weaviles do about this Dragon Fairy combo that Uzi's got going on? They've got power. They've got priority. They've got setup. It is destructive. Look at Choice Band Azu. What's the Weaviles' answer? It's not Great Tusk. That's pretty much his only wall. At best, it's Walking Wake or Iron Leaves if you predict an Aqua Jet, but good luck swapping Wake in on a Banded Play Rough or Iron Leaves. Neither of them want a Banded Play Rough. Not to mention your only Fairy Resists are weak to water. I love Azu in this matchup, and I love him partnered with Dragonite. It's so easy for Dragonite to get a good opportunity to set up, and Terra Normal E-Speed is going to be pretty hard to deal with. He's got such great coverage. If Azu blows a hole through any of the Weaviles' defensive threats in the mid-game, there's really nothing to stop a Dragonite on that entire squad. Keep an eye out for this duo, guys. I think they both make an appearance this week. I'm also going to be watching how the Weaviles play their Ghost advantage against the Bullet Punch Club. Uzi's got a pretty big Ghost weakness. At best, his answer is Meowscarada or maybe Dragonite if it's already Terra Normal, but that's why I really like Gengar and Rotom for the Weaviles this week. Meowscarada can take a Shadow Ball, sure, but it can't take a Sludge Wave, and it definitely doesn't want to get burned, and it definitely doesn't want to take an Overheat. So don't count out Rotom Heat, and don't count out Gengar here. I think Rotom has a big role in this match. I kind of like him as an offensive set, to be honest. Gengar and Rotom threaten a lot of Uzi's team if they pack Shadow Ball. Plus, they can both pack Willow. They can both hit its best resist, Meowscarada, super effective with their stab. And a Terra Normal Dragonite has to fear the Will-O-Wisp. And it gets outsped and burned by both of them. So I think Fire Ghost, great coverage. Poison Ghost, great coverage. I really like Weavile's Ghost advantage. And I'm going to be looking to see if he utilizes that this week.
Finally, we have the Edmonton Coilers playing the San Francisco Arcaniners. And both teams are coming off rough losses, and both teams are looking to bounce back. For the Coilers side, I think Iron Valiant, of course, has always been the forefront of the team. And once again, it does have potential in this matchup. The big things that it has to look out for, though, is that George does have a lot of speed to sort of take it to handle the speed boosting Iron Valiant, mainly through that Hawlucha with the Grassy Seed. I think Hawlucha and Rillaboom will show up mainly because of Tyranitar. Tyranitar does kind of hard wall the double fire core that the Arcaniners have, so T-Tar will probably be the focal point of the build for the Coilers. That said, that kind of just opens the door for Rillaboom and Hawlucha potentially do some work, as there's not a, depending on how they're played, they can definitely clean up late game. You gotta watch out for like maybe potentially a Prankster T-Wave Thundurus though for the Hawlucha. Lucky's been booming, Lucky's been exploding these past couple of weeks. Lucky is loves to explode, and I think it's capable of just doing some good damage to the Donphan with the likes of like Terra Blast and of course Thunderbolt for the Alamamala, and of course Electric Stab's always strong with its ability. Chi-Yu has been a threat all season, but it looks like there's a lot of answers offensively for it. You can definitely see Carbink show up just for the Chi-Yu. It does do decently okay against the Volcarona as well, so I could definitely see those showing up. Garganacl spamming Assault Cure could be crucial to wear down stuff like the Goodra, stuff like the Slowking, so don't be surprised if you see like Covert Cloak on the Coiler side just to avoid getting chipped down. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to, can Lucha and Rillaboom do what they have to do to break through the Coilers' bulk and ultimately be able to pick off a lot of the more frail offense like the Iron Valiant and the Thundurus. And for the Coiler side, can you use that Tyranitar to check the fire types well enough and use that Valiant to break down the team offensively and potentially have stuff like maybe like a late game Farigiraf to clean up as well. There's a lot of options that they can do, whereas I feel like with George, they kind of have to rely on that Lucha Rillaboom core. So that's it for me.
From all of us here at the GBA, we hope you're looking forward to these Week 6 matchups. Be sure to check out all of these fantastic coaches, links in the description down below. On behalf of myself, Randy, and the entire GBA staff, thanks so much for turning in, and we'll see you guys next time.